Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Could you please all type yes if you can hear me? That will be helpful. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, everyone. There's a little delay there. That's why there's a little pause. Thank you all for coming today. Thank you for being patient and allowing me to delay this broadcast for 1 week, because obviously I was a little bit busy. It's been a busy month with Taiwan and Sedona both, so I'm a bit tired now. So I'm actually going to take a little break here and do some painting after this broadcast today. I do just want to mention that we have confirmed our dates for Costa Rica, and there is a page up on the website under retreats that gives you the images and the information. We don't have accommodations totally figured out yet in terms of who can sleep where, but we are renting the entire resort. It's a resort that one of our members has been to and has given the thumbs up on, so I'm very grateful for that. It is accommodations for about 25 of us. There'll be 30 or so with staff. There's a pool. It's on a river, which you can't swim in because there's crocodiles, but it is close to a beach, and we'll be doing excursions to the beach every day with a van. So it looks beautiful. It's on the west coast of Costa Rica, and the information is there. It's going to be in the second week of March. We also have our Palm Springs event confirmed as well. So if you're feeling like you might want a little break from the rain or snow, that starts January 31st near Palm Springs. So that's all of the business I want to do. Let's get, let me just see what's going on here. Good to see you. Good to see you too. Hello, everyone. So nice to have you here. Let's see what Jesus has for us today. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. And of course, as usual, we say thank you for joining us here in the physical with your bodies, with your hearts, with your minds. It is such an important job that you are doing. Your journey here is a sacred one. Why is it a sacred one? Well, you have come into being in this time and place to assist your planet in its wonderful, wonderful ascension process. You all came in here to be volunteers, to be assistants, to help your brothers and sisters, to wake up. And now the time is approaching where your courage is going to be called upon to be a little more brave about your understandings about reality. A lot of you are keeping your secrets about your path, and we want you to understand what this does. Your experience, your projections, your voice, your demonstrations, everything you think, say, and do, create. And so if you are deeply immersed in your spiritual practice, in your private life, and yet when you are out in public, you are ashamed of it, or you are afraid to even mention it, or you cover it up with subtle references to things that nobody can get upset about, you are really demonstrating your fears, and you are increasing your fears, because your actions, thoughts, words, and deeds need to be in alignment for you to be able to create fully. And we are not saying that you should stand on a soapbox on a corner. We are saying that you must look at where the contradictions are in your experience and what that statement of contradicting yourself means energetically. Because energetically, if you are deeply immersed in spiritual practice and you love it and it is your passion, and when you are out in the world or at lunch or dinner with friends or whatever it is that you're doing, you do not ever share it and you hide it. It means that there is a deep contradiction in your mind because it is playing out in your life. That's where your mind plays out, is in your life. So now is the time to address those fears, because it is important that you have the courage of your convictions. It is important that you go through those fears, because those fears are miscreating all the time in your life, in your body, in your energy system. Remember, thought is everything. So you think, that is what you are. And if so, if you have this profound split in your experience, in your self-expression, then you are creating light and you are stepping away from the light, creating light, stepping away from the light. And that makes you frustrated because you feel like you're not making any progress, even though you're doing all this work that you are immersed in when you are involved in your passion. So this week, we want to assign to you that investigatory process. Where am I hiding? Where am I lying? Where am I not speaking my truth? Now, we want to address this idea of speaking truth, because if it's driven by the ego, it will be an attack. And this is a very, very important thing to understand, that if you are having the urge to say something and it's an attack, that is not truth. We want you to express what you feel and what you love and what you're interested in and what you care about without it being an attack. And this is a refining process that some of you are faced with now, because, and we will address one of the questions here that came, even though our dear one did not put it on her list, it is pertinent to the subject that we are speaking about. This idea of Wi-Fi and 5G and the contamination of electrical impulses in your society is a real thing. And if you are moved to make that a passion, we want you to go inside and ask yourself, where is that coming from? Is it coming from a place of love, or is it coming from a place of fear? Are my words words of encouragement to move away from those systems, offering alternatives? Or are they words forbidding and judging and scaring those beings that are involved in that particular environment? Because if you haven't found a solution to the problem, focusing on the problem will make the problem bigger, because you're putting your energy, your focus, your passion into the problem. It's a very, very important thing to discern in your projects. Now, some of you are motivated through your guidance system to change these old systems, the medical system, the legal system, the banking system, all of these kinds of systems. But what we want you to do is look for the solution. We want you to find a way, if let's say you're involved in the Wi-Fi 5G project in whatever form is coming to you, you want to provide a solution to these people. You want to give them an opportunity to see that there is a way of working within the system that is existent at this time with positive attitude. So, for example, you can be promoting the idea of turning the Wi-Fi systems off in your house whenever you're not using them. So, for example, what we would recommend in this circumstance, and our dear one here has to deal with this because she does her work online, and we've talked to her about this. Turn off the Wi-Fi system when you go to bed. Leave the devices away from you, because many of these devices that you use have lives of their own that are being miscreated by other beings that affect your energy system. Be outside as often as possible. This is one of the counter measures that you can take with these systems is to leave your phone at home, and when you go into nature, don't take any of that stuff with you. We know they have cameras in, and they are not stupid. They knew that if they put a camera in the phone, you take it with you everywhere in case you wanted to take a picture. These designs are brilliant, but do not be foolish. And so promote how to manage, live a life that is joyful, not using those systems yourself, and knowing that the way you've been taught to protest and attack and judge to change things does not work. Look at your world. If going to war over something worked, you would have a peaceful world. It does not. If attacking people worked, then the beings that are less than loving would not be in positions of power. They are. Do not deceive yourself. You have been trained into attack as the solution, and it does not work. It continues to feed your energy to the very system you are battling. Do not battle, but feel the thing you don't want and immediately pivot to something that you do want. If you get upset that there is Wi-Fi and 5G on the horizon, feel that upset, take that energy and say, what can I do with it? I'm going to look for a house in the country. I don't know how I'm going to afford it, but I'm going to move away from these things because I do not want them. You are not in charge of everybody else's desires is the next point that we would like to make here. You can inform, you can suggest alternatives, and then you leave it alone, because trying to change someone else's mind is you playing God. You have no idea what their path is. You have no idea what their guidance system is telling them. You have, in fact, no idea what is good for them. Most of you barely know what's good for yourselves, so you really should not be trying to change everybody else's life. You should be focusing on aligning your life, aligning your interior thought, word, and deed, getting yourself congruent, knowing that when you are congruent, you are a powerful creator. But if you're speaking things that are different from how you feel, you're not going to be able to create and move through your life, because you're going to be going back and forth, canceling out what it is you're expressing. So we understand that in your world, you think that if you don't scream at the top of your lungs, stop this, stop this, stop this, that is not going to stop. But we say, look at what is happening in your world. Do the protests work? Sometimes they do, but there must be a big enough energy focused on the alternative. So for example, there was a massive mobilization to get rid of slavery that was open in your society. And that was precipitated by a political movement. Now, political movements are a group of people deciding that they want something. Okay, so what happened in that sense was the beings that were against slavery did not necessarily just stand on the streets yelling at the policymakers. They created an underground to help those people. They put their lives on the line with full force and passion to provide freedom. They did not fight against slavery. They promoted freedom, and they gave people a way to become free. So this is what we want you to take from this today. Make yourselves go inside and see what your motivation is. Is your motivation for a walk today fear of getting sick? Or is your motivation for a walk today enjoying the beautiful natural environment? You are going to get different results from doing the same thing based on the frequency of that motivational inner guidance. You are creators. You are going to get what you think about, whether you like it or not. Focus on what you want more of. We do not think you truly grasp the principle of this. Hating somebody who does something you don't like adds energy to that system. Looking at someone doing something you don't like and saying, I don't like it, and that kind of upsets me, and taking that energy and putting it into the alternative is the way to do it. Again, with joy. Do not go from that upset into an angry group of people and vent your anger there. Make sure that you are now the teachers of this peaceful way of transforming the world, because war doesn't work. Anger is an initial reaction to a judgment about something, and most of you are in that place still. That's okay, but that doesn't feel good. However, it does provide you with energy to springboard into making a shift towards the system that you do want. So yes, you can protest if you understand the laws of creation. To add your voice to the number of other people saying, I do not want genetically modified food, for example, and then plant your veggies at home and act in accord with what you love. We will return shortly. Okie dokie. Let me just have a little sip of my tea. I got this mug in Sedona. It's turquoise and tigers, two of my favorite things. Oh, right. Focus here. Okay. First question for live streaming. A Course in Miracles says, choose once again what you would have him be, remembering that every choice you make establishes your own identity as you will see it and believe it is. A few times I got a very faint glimpse of a very transparent presence around people, places and things, including myself. And then the vision disappears, and then I see what the body's eyes are used to seeing. If this is true perception, how to strengthen it? How to develop it? Okay. We're with you again, dear ones. We are Ananda, and of course, we are always pleased to be able to come and visit with you in this way. We are grateful to all of you for your dedication, for your commitment to this practice, because it is changing the world. You do not know it, and you see the systems, crazy systems at play, but you do not understand what's going on behind the scenes. These old systems are becoming destabilized because of the number of people who are choosing love. So we want to send that encouraging message to you so that you do not think the chaos is getting worse. The instability is getting worse, and there are reactions from the instigators of these old systems to try and keep them alive. And that is why you are seeing some strange things out there in terms of politics, in terms of borders, in terms of populations, and these sorts of things. We want you to stay focused on your forgiveness practice. What does this mean? That means seeking out for any upset in your body mind that lets you know that you're off track. It doesn't mean that you necessarily accept that what is happening is correct. It means that you understand that your most powerful creative force is your alignment with love. And in that knowing, you choose to step back from the little fights and the little battles and the little arguments that waste your time and agitate you, take you away from peace. You know that your peace is the sign that you are connected, tuned in, tapped in, turned on to that which is true power. Now, these light experiences that happen are the upgrades of your nervous system, let us say. So many of you are experiencing electrical shocks and movements in your bodies, and we have explained to you that those are the upgrades, the energy upgrades that you need to go through to take you from the 30% performance rate that most of you are at up into the 90% performance rate where we are hoping to get you to go. So these unusual jerks and movements and mudras and events in your body are the upgrades that are happening both from the outside and the inside. We are working with your interior processes. You are working with your interior processes through your forgiveness practice, through your prayer and meditation practice, through your diet, through your time spent in nature. And you are also getting these upgrades from the light that is coming through the atmosphere at this time. Light upgrades, energy upgrades, information upgrades. Now your reproductive systems are getting upgrades. Your breathing systems are getting upgrades. Your digestive systems are getting upgrades. So, for example, those of you that are finding food intolerances being exacerbated, in the way you interpret those things may think, oh, my system is becoming dysfunctional. No, it's getting an upgrade, and it will not tolerate things that are too low frequency for it. So some people may have gastrointestinal quote unquote problems because they haven't shifted their food into a higher frequency. They may be feeling lethargic and under-energized, ironically enough, because the food they're eating has not yet been adjusted up into a lighter, less heavy frequency. So hearing, many of you are hearing things. You may be hearing telepathic messages. You may be hearing ringing in the ears. This is the hearing system being upgraded. And of course, your sight. Many of you suffer from sight impairment, and that is a direct consequence of not looking and not seeing clearly. The body will always reflect the belief that's at play. And a lot of you, because your vision of the world has been narrowed, your vision of yourself has been narrowed, you have problems with the eyes. As these energies increase, as your forgiveness practice increases, you will have shifts and changes in your visual field as well. Now, some of you have experienced this where you will see a light or a series of flickers, for example, that look like fireflies, and you will know that's not actually in the world, but I'm still seeing it. It's actually in your spiritual vision or your mental visual field, if you will. This is the place where visions happen. This is the place where daydreaming happens. You all have this experience where you're driving along in a car and you see the physical world, but you also see images of what you're thinking about, and they almost overlay what is actually being seen by the physical eyes. And this is your spiritual vision. You are literally seeing images because your mind is focused somewhere other than in the physical world, and you actually will see both worlds. So this is what is going on here. You are beginning to have access to other worlds because that's where you're focusing. If you are doing your forgiveness practice, that's the world of the heart. What's the world of the heart? That's the 4D world. If you're visioning the kind of world you'd like to have, focusing on things that do not yet exist, let's say a particular kind of lifestyle that you would like to experience, our dear one is doing that as she is bringing into manifestation the property that will be where we have our retreat center. She is spending time seeing things that actually do not exist in this dimension. And so it is tuning up her spiritual vision. And that is what we are encouraging you to do. So do not think of these light experiences or weird distortions in your optic nerve, although some would interpret it that way. If you go to a Western doctor and tell them that you're seeing little fireflies in your eyes. They will start looking for the problem. So just be aware that a lot of these symptoms, quote unquote, are not understood by Western medicine. The ringing in the ears is one of them. There are lots of upgrades happening, and we want you to trust in the process. You will know if you're ill. You will know if something's wrong. How do you continue up this ladder? You continue practicing clarification of your mind and heart and body. Remember, your actions come from what you think and believe to be true about reality. If you're focused on the body all the time as the thing that needs to be fixed, then you are focusing on the effect and not the cause. Stay focused on the interior experience, clarifying anger away, clarifying fear away, choosing love, choosing light, choosing peace whenever you can, and addressing opportunities for evolution when they come to you. Opportunities for evolution are problems. Problems that you have brought to you through your frequency to show you what you need to see about your mind. And we encourage you to continue on with this as the way to expand your spiritual vision, your true perception. Now, the body, with its 5 senses, is what the ego mind has created to convince you, remember, that you are in separation. The body is the thing that the ego mind has manufactured to prove to you that separation from love is true. So remember that as you begin to have these alternative expressions of those 5 senses, understand that you are being shifted and taken higher and higher and higher. And when a being is completely aligned with love, completely enlightened, the body will be different. The experience will be different. They will be seeing things and experiencing things in a completely different way. That is the journey you are on, and those upgrades are brilliant. Those upgrades are necessary, and those upgrades will trigger fear in you sometimes because you feel as if you're starting to leave this world and go into another one. And indeed, on some level, you are. But that is what you are asking for in doing this work. You are asking for profound change of your not only physical, but mental and emotional bodies as well. So know that these are side effects of what the work you're doing with your mind, and they are good indeed. As we said, you will know when something's wrong. You will feel it. You will go, I'm out of accord here. What's going on? Trust in that. And if you are drawn to go and see a doctor or an allopathic medicine practitioner, we would ask you to just ask yourself, is this thing I'm experiencing part of the effects of this practice? Because some beings will go to a doctor. They will say, I've got this issue with my breathing, or my heart seems to be pumping too fast and it's frightening me. They may very well medicate you. Now, we are not saying do not seek proper medical attention. It's very important that you do. But we want you to ask that question before you go. Am I just feeling an expansion of energy and that is frightening me? Perhaps I can sit with it for a little bit and see what happens. We will return shortly. Okay. I'm going to have a little sip, chat amongst yourselves for a moment. Ingrid, yes, Jesus talked about your question. That's good, because I read it just before I came on. Okay, let's see what the next one is. Is it possible for a relationship to exist where both people give 100% of their hearts to each other? Is that relationship possible on Earth, or is it, by the nature of our egos in the 3D world, always going to be that we can't give 100% to each other? Is one of the partners always going to break the commitment in the end? Because we are essentially looking for love outside ourselves. Is God the only quote unquote person that we could expect to give 100% and have a full relationship with? I am wondering how Jesus and Mary Magdalene dealt with this, since they seem to have had such a blissful marriage and they were so committed to each other. Is that possible in this world? Well, I think he did cover a lot of this in the book and in the love book. So if that person, I don't know who wrote that, but I would suggest reading and rereading those books if you haven't done so. But let's bring Jesus through and ask about that. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and indeed our dear one is correct. We go into great detail in those two texts that this being penned for and with us about love, because it is such an important subject. Many books on this subject. So we want you to understand that asking questions that have already been answered is really not efficient use of this time. We want you to understand that you cannot give 100% commitment to somebody until you have committed 100% to knowing who you are, to understanding your mind, to understanding your heart, to understanding your physical well-being. And this is where, briefly, we will cover the subject, that your romantic relationships fall down, because you do not look after yourselves, you do not follow your hearts, you do not practice these principles of loving kindness and listening to your guidance system, and get taken way off track in your relationships. And that's generally speaking why they fail. They fail because you end up getting deeply involved with someone and going into very challenging situations, like being a home owner and a parent and these kinds of things, working a lot of hours to support these systems, when you don't even know what you are and who you are and where you came from and why you're here. So most beings are very confused beings, and they have been, through the indoctrination process on your planet, been told that the way to solve this deep pain and suffering that they're in is to find the right person to make them feel all better, which is one of the biggest lies that you are seemingly trying to overcome here in this 3D experience. For those of you that are single and are looking for a partner, we want you to look inside yourselves and say, what problems do I currently have? Be really honest with yourself. What problems do I currently have that are going to be an issue in a relationship? Oh, I watch pornography all the time, or I binge eat food in secret, or I am very fearful. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Start working on that problem as a demonstration of your understanding that it will come up in your relationship. Are you financially irresponsible? Are you a hoarder? Whatever it is, look at it and say, would I want to be in a relationship with someone who has these issues that I have? Start weeding your garden. Start removing the big rocks from under the surface of the soil in your garden, your major resentments, your deepest fears. While you are single, and we will say if you are single, you're single for a reason. It's not happening for no reason. It is either because you are too frightened to get in a relationship, and that is a good thing to be single. If you're too frightened to get into an intimate relationship with someone, you should not be in an intimate relationship with someone. You need to dissipate some of that fear. If you have set yourself a project, a goal that requires you to invest a tremendous amount of time, then being single is probably the most beneficent state for you to be in at this time. So you want to ask yourself, am I actually in a state of love and presence and happiness and self-fulfillment with myself? Okay, perhaps it's time to become a bit more active in your pursuit of a partner. But you must use your intelligence here. You must not just go for a physical appearance. You must ask yourself, let's say, 10 major questions about what kind of experience you'd like to have in a relationship. Do you want to have children or not? That's a big one. Most people start dating or go out with somebody and they have not really thought that one through. Or they pretend that they don't want children when they do, or they do want children when they don't, because that's going to make the dating smoother. It's a deception. It's not honest. Do you want to live in an urban environment or a country environment? Well, if you're already living in an urban environment, you're going to meet people who live in urban environments. Perhaps you have to take yourself to a country environment, that if that's what you want. If you don't even have the courage to move to the country from the city when that's what you want, what makes you think you're going to meet another courageous person in the city? Go to the country. That is the place where you're going to meet someone who shares the same dream as you. Even though you're in the city, most likely you're going to meet people who are urban focused. So you really have to ask yourself, am I 100% committed to myself? Am I honoring myself? Am I looking after my health? Am I pursuing the education that I feel I would like to have? Am I investing in things that I value? Or am I compromising myself all over the place? Am I sabotaging myself? Am I unloving to myself? What makes anybody think that if you're unloving to yourself, that you can commit to loving someone else? You can't do that if you don't love yourself first and appreciate yourself and understand who and what and where you are and why you're here. So it's very, very important not to get caught up in the romantic fantasies that are fed to you in your society. And we would say to you, look how it's going. Are people happy in relationships, or are they cruising through the online dating apps that you have everywhere to satisfy their craving for love? We will tell you that you loving yourself and honoring yourself and nurturing yourself and hanging out with like-minded people and trusting in your life, this is going to bring you some semblance of peace and happiness. Of course, doing A Course in Miracles will assist in that process. So we want you to focus on that first. If you're alone, living in a house that you don't like, in a town you hate, in a body that you despise, in clothes that don't make you happy, why on earth do you think that getting into a relationship is going to do anything? It is not. You're going to bring that frequency to the relationship. And that was why when I was involved with Mary in my physical incarnation, I went on my journey. My journey was about my destiny, my love of my particular experience, not to the exclusion of her, but because I knew that that was something that would benefit me and make me a better person, partner, teacher. I did it, and it was not easy. It was not, quote unquote, fun and entertaining in that sense. It was challenging, but it developed a strength and a wisdom in me that I could not do if I had taken the easy route of being the perfect boyfriend. That was not what my destiny was. And in the end, Mary understood that, but it was a difficult time for her. It was a difficult incarnation for her. Do not paint roses and fairies all around our relationship. It was hard work. It was difficult. It was challenging. And it was only her determination to develop as a spiritual being that gave her the ability to hang in there. I was not an easy partner. Do not ever think that we just sat around gazing into each other's eyes, listening to romantic music. It was not like that. That is a projection from the romantic movies that you have in this time and place. It was hard. It was challenging. We both had to bring our game to its maximum to be able to have a relationship at all. It would have, in fact, in some ways been easier for me not to have a relationship in that life, but that was not my destiny. My destiny was to do both. It was to have a beautiful, loving, egalitarian marriage within the same life that I chose to do this other work. And that was my destiny, and there's no point in discussing it more. But do not lay fairy tales on my life. It was hard. Do not lay fairy tales on our marriage. It was challenging and required the deepest, deepest of commitments and love for each other and for ourselves. We had to love ourselves first. And if you read that book and you read the love book and you read the love, Making Love to God book, profoundly, you will find all of the answers that you are seeking in there. All right. Okay. I get ringing in my ears frequently, and I just say, hello, keep working on me. I give you permission. Okay, this is a very good question. We'll ask Ananda this. My dog Honey has survived a recent tick bite. She was paralyzed, including her lungs, got pneumonia, and had all the drugs of an intensive care unit, anesthetics, antibiotics, etc. I'm so grateful for the care and love she got, and I had a lot of forgiveness work to do as to what was in my consciousness that created this experience. My question: I don't want to give Honey tick prevention medication for the rest of her life. It is magic, and if it is toxic to ticks, what does it do to her? And yet I am fearful that if I don't, she might get another tick bite. The question goes on a little bit. So let's ask Ananda about this. We're with you again, dear ones. Your pets are your beloved teachers, and they are your beloved guides in many ways. A lot of humans have pets to teach them things that they cannot learn any other way. And they reflect back to you your beliefs. So it is not that you have caused your beloved pet to get sick. This is a very egoic way of looking at things, to think, oh, my mind must be so bad that I've made my dog sick. Do not look at it this way. That is the ego using these teachings in the way that it wants to scare you and to make you afraid of your own consciousness. You are going to have experiences and opportunities and problems throughout your experience here that reflect back to you your beliefs. So if your pet has had a medical intervention because of an experience, what we want you to look at is, what does this experience with your dog bring up for you? What does it bring up in you? Does it bring up your fear of death? Does it bring up your fear of separation? Does it bring up issues of control or dominance or weakness? Ask yourself what it brings up, because every experience is to show you something about an aspect of your consciousness that you have hidden from yourself. Remember, you have projected out of your mind all of the things that you don't want to look at, that cause you mortal fear, that upset you. And so they are going to appear out in the world. That is what has to happen. And so that's all that's happening. It does not mean that you are bad. It does not mean that you are a terrible Course in Miracles student. You are merely having the next thing revealed to you. So you must accept it for what it is and ask yourself, what fears, judgments, worries came up in that experience? And now here's another one. That your dog is going to go out into the grasses and woods, and it is going to encounter creatures that may attach to it, fleas and ticks and these kinds of things. Well, one of the distortions that many pet owners have to face is that they are bringing what is essentially, we do not want to offend you, but it's going to happen, what is essentially a wild creature, an animal, what should be perhaps sleeping outside, living outside, into your homes. This is how creatures really want to live. They've been domesticated just as you've been domesticated. They've been forced to sit on white carpets and things that you've chosen. And so they must be kept clean, and they must be disinfected, and they must be free of all signs of animal life. But really, that is what is a natural state of being for creatures on your planet. If you go into the woods and you find a deer and look at them, they will have a magnificent zoological collection on their bodies. They will have all kinds of bacteria. They will have all kinds of things living with them, on them, in them. And that is as they should be. So what's happening with your dog creatures, your pets, is that they are straddling two worlds. You take them out into the woods, which of course we support wholeheartedly. They get you traipsing through the leaves, and they sniff and eat things they shouldn't. And then you bring them back to your townhouses with the white carpets and the clean floors and the disinfected everythings. And then you want to make them as clean as the house. And so you have created a problem. You must decide, are you going to have a domesticated lapdog that is perfectly clean and never encounters the world? Or are you going to have an outdoor, kind of messy, bit stinky dog? Now, it's funny because our dear one is going through this particular process with dear Delphi. And Delphi is an outside dog. She's got a thick coat that can easily pick up all kinds of things. And our dear one has had this dilemma. Is it kind and loving to keep her as an outside pet, or is it kind and loving to bring her in and then have to deal with all of the shenanigans that she's brought back from the woods? That is a process that she is in right now. And she is in the same process of deciding, well, I would like to have this dog inside with me, which means I am going to have to deal with fleas if she is coming in the house. How am I going to deal with fleas? Well, blessed Delphi will not let our dear one bath her, which is a great entertainment to us to watch Tina try and bath this dog. It's very, very funny because Delphi's much stronger than our dear one. And these battling wills cannot come to an agreement. And so our dear one has decided to use a flea and tick medication on her, topical one that she puts on the spine down through the fur. And there, lo and behold, our dear one has made a decision. Delphi gets to come inside at night for some cuddles and some quiet time, and gets to spend the rest of the time outside. And she has come to peace with this because she says, well, this is the arrangement that Delphi and I have made. This is the agreement that feels right for me, that she is outside a lot and comes in for brief periods in the evening. And that is all, but she must deal with the realities, quote unquote, of fleas and ticks. Our dear one, because she has gone through many, many experiences figuring things out with her guidance system, says that she will deal with whatever comes up when it comes up. And in that creation or miscreation, whatever it is, she will be able to handle and learn and grow from that experience. So she does not spend hours and hours envisioning a sickness that these flea and tick medications are bringing Delphi. She does not do that. She will not do that. Why? Because she feels suffering and then she knows she's off track. She allows it to be what it is in the moment and makes the decision, doesn't second guess herself, and doesn't feel guilt or shame about it. That's only come from mind training, from nothing else whatsoever. She has decided that that's the balance that she must reach. Now, at some point in the future, that may change, and that is good, all well and good. But you have to decide, what balance are you going to reach with your pet? We want you to know that these manifestations of sicknesses in animals are sometimes direct reflections of the sicknesses of the owners. But other times they are reflecting something else that is going on. And it is up to you to look inside your heart and mind when you have a crisis, a health crisis, to ask yourself, what is this asking of me? Is this asking me to be less controlling, perhaps? Is it asking me to back off from insisting that my pet be something it cannot be? These are the questions that we want you to ask yourself. We want you to know that your pets have come to you to work with you and to help you wake up. They are there for that purpose. They are there because they are parts of you that love you and know that you need assistance in certain areas. And so allow whatever happens between you and your pets to teach you, to help you grow, to become more loving. It does not mean that you have to be perfect. It does not mean that you have to know the answers to everything. But what it means is that you must go inside and ask yourself, what is this bringing up for me? Oh, it's bringing up the death of my mother. I never processed it. I am feeling all of the fear about death that I felt as a child. That's the issue. If that's the issue, then thank the pet for helping you to uncover it and then go back to the issue, re-envision it, forgive it, let it go. And then you will find that that sickness, quote unquote, or crisis will not need to manifest again because you have got the message. So ask yourself, what is the message for you in this? Do not be deceived by the form. It is what it brings up in you. It is there that the solution lies. It is not out there. That is the effect. This is the cause. Go there and ask yourself, what came up for me? We will speak to you again shortly. Very good. Okay, let me just make sure my computer doesn't. Okay. Just going to have a sip. So a brief interesting thing here. There's a question about the guardians coming up here. Some of you may or may not know, but I've been transmitting a new message from beings called the Guardians that came through first on Salt Spring. I think I've done 3 or 4 videos or messages from them. And Daniel Scranton, who is a channeler who I see his posts every day, the Arcturians have dedicated their energy to assisting the Guardians with helping guard us. So that was a really interesting confirmation about the Guardians, although I don't tend to look for too many confirmations these days, but I liked seeing that the Guardians were working through Daniel as well. So this question is, a lot of words. The Guardians said that it is a narrow gate to the new world of higher love, and that if we fail to raise our vibration, we will have to go through a new cycle of lower vibrational experience. Does this mean that if we fail to raise our vibration in this lifetime, we don't have the same opportunity to pass the test and move on to the next level in the following lifetime? They also said that in this realm, it is important to balance light and dark, love and fear, and that at the moment it was too much darkness in this world. But is it possible that imbalance can be due to too much light also? Okay, that's a little confusing. Okay, so this idea of the end of season causes, a spiritual season causes a lot of fear with the ego. Thinks it's going to be condemned to some kind of horrible hell or something, I think. Okay, let's bring Jesus through and see what he says about the Guardians and this idea of a end of spiritual season. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and these are important times in your evolution. And it is very, very important that you do not bring fear into this time and place. And this, the way this question is worded, you can hear the fearful ideas, the words such as fail and lost opportunities and these kinds of things. We want you to understand that this has happened many, many times in other seasons. Your season, this spiritual season, is around 25,000 years long. Well, that is a minuscule little slip in the massive amount of time that has gone on in, around, and on this planet. It is very important for you to understand and focus on your eternal spiritual nature. You are here in a physical form because that was what you wanted to do. You wanted to experience some more things. You wanted to have an opportunity to deal with some issues that you had not yet mastered. And so that is why you are here in this physical form. Some of you came in specifically as helpers. Some of you came in specifically as teachers. Some of you did not need to come into physical form as a part of your own evolution, but you chose to because that was what was going to benefit humanity at this time. So this idea of a narrow gate is about love. It is about you choosing love. And that is the graduation certificate requirement, choosing love. Now, this does not mean that you have to be 100% loving, but what it means is that more of you has to be loving than not. And that is simply the requirement for the next evolutionary process that is coming towards your society and your dimensional expression at this time. If you have not got more love in you than hatred, more love than fear, then you will be given more opportunities to work on choosing love. It is not a punishment. It is not a hell. It is not that at all. It will simply be a continued reflection of the frequency that you hold. And it is pointless being afraid. It is pointless trying to calculate your capacity for love. Is it over 50%? What you want to do is listen to your guidance system. You want to say, am I at peace? Am I choosing things that are bringing me joy? Am I able to focus my mind? Is my mind trained? And that is the means that we have given you to achieve those ends. If your mind is not trained by you, you go to the training that your society has given you, and the training that your society has given your parents, because your parents and your schools and your religious systems have trained you. And they have trained you in many unloving ways. It doesn't mean that we want you to hate your parents or hate anything. You know that hate is not the answer. But we will say to you, if you don't train your mind, then you go back to those beliefs and ideas that have already been implanted in there. And if you look at your world and these systems, you know that those beliefs and ideas are not loving most of the time. So you have to choose. You are the chooser. You are the gatekeeper of your own consciousness. What are you watching? What are you talking about? What are you thinking about? It is possible. Now, we're not saying it's likely, but it is possible that a mind that decides it will only choose loving things from now on, it can do that completely. It means that you never do anything that hurts you. It means that you never allow your mind to wander into hateful thoughts about other beings. It means that you do not follow fearful stories down into low frequencies. You have the ability to stay present and observing what is with the current mind you have. It is merely something you choose not to do. You choose to reach your hand out and turn on a violent movie. You choose to reach your hand out and buy a food that's not good for you. You choose to gossip with a neighbor. You choose to look in the mirror and say something hateful to yourself. You choose to ruminate on unloving ideas. You choose. And you create whatever it is that you focus your mind on over and over again with feeling. And so we do not want you to think about the end of spiritual season, the fork in the road, the doorway to a new earth. We do not want you to think about that at all. We want you to ask yourself, how do I feel? How do I feel today? Do I feel good? Do I feel happy? Do I feel motivated? No. Why don't I feel happy? Why don't I feel at peace? That's because I'm sitting here thinking that I'm a failure and a loser. Well, that's your choice, dear one. If you are sitting feeling that you are a failure and a loser, then that is your choice. And we would say, go to the library and get yourself a lovely book to read, a happy novel about something that's really, really nice. And take yourself out of your mind into the mind of the author of that book. And for that time, you will be in another world, another level of consciousness, and you will give yourself an opportunity to heal a little tiny bit. And when you finish that book and you come back into your mind, into your consciousness, and it starts to cause you troubles again, we say, take yourself for a walk. And if you cannot master your mind, put on some earbuds and listen to some beautiful music and walk in the woods with the leaves falling down around you and make yourself be okay with what is for another hour. Some of you that have deeply troubled minds have to do this. You have to go hour by hour, sometimes minute by minute, but you must choose to feel a little bit better. If it's late in the evening and you can't get to sleep, have a shower, wash your hair, run a bath, do something that is nice for yourself and distracts you and causes you to use your senses to come into the present moment, because it is the negative thinking that you are suffering from, dear one. And this is always the issue. If you actually look at what is going on for most of you, you aren't in war-torn zones, you aren't in deep pain. Occasionally you will have experiences of pain. There's no doubt about it. It goes with this territory. But if you listen to what we're saying and do the things that the Course in Miracles guides you to do, instead of arguing with it, instead of going into a future fear movie about what might happen if you don't meet those requirements, that is not going to serve you. It is going to serve you to seek out as much peace today as you can, to give yourself loving things to do today if you can. And if you cannot cope with your own mind, we would say go into reading some material, not necessarily spiritual material that's going to cause you to panic and think that you aren't good enough, but recreational, fictitious material that takes you into a world that's nicer than the one that you are creating for yourself. And that is an okay coping mechanism as long as you use it in combination with the means that you have been given to bring your mind to peace. If your mind is not at peace, you are off track. So that means that you're thinking about the future gateway that you're not going to make, and it's bringing fear into your mind, and that is you generating the fear. It's not based in reality. It's a fantasy. So come back to the present moment, get down with yourself in this moment and say, what can I do? What can I focus on? What can I engage my mind with now that is going to bring me some semblance of peace? Even if it's not total peace, it can be some semblance of peace. But we will say to you, if your mind is not trained, if your mind is running away with you, then you can be laying on a couch reading a good book and the mind will be saying, you're lazy, you shouldn't be doing this. This is a waste of time. So really, you cannot escape from an untrained mind, a mind that is hateful. You must master it. And there is nothing that anyone can do for you other than to say it's possible. You have the ability to do it if you choose to do it. And that there are many beings and frequencies that are fully in support of you becoming peaceful and loving towards yourself. So we hope that answers the question for you. We will return shortly. All right. Okay, let me have a sip of my tea. The next question. This is a reflective universe, and you have told us to see ourselves in the reflection. But I have found that it sometimes gives me relief to see that when a person throws negativity at me, it has nothing to do with me. It is that person's negativity. And then it is easier to forgive. Am I spiritually bypassing? This is a good question. One time you said that if we sit by an angry person on the bus, it is a reflection of our own anger. If we were not angry, we would not be sitting beside. If we were not angry, we would be sitting beside a quiet person. But what if we were the answer to that person's prayer to feel calm? And I have many times thought about how Jesus could be facing so much hate and fear when he was so loving. Jesus, what did the crucifixion mean to you? How did you see the humans who did that to you? And what in you drew that experience to you? Okay, we've got some more questions that were answered in his book. So for that person, I would say, please read the book carefully because that information is in there. This is a reflective universe, and you have told us that it is our reflection. This is the sentence that's interesting, but I have found that it sometimes gives me relief to see that when a person throws negativity at me, it has nothing to do with me. So that is a good little phrase there, that it gives you relief to think that it's nothing to do with you. And that is what projection is. It says, I'm okay, you're the problem, and that feeds separation. And the ego gets relief from that. That's what it wants. It wants you to feel separated from this whole big projection. But I won't answer it, although I just did in a bit. Okay, I'm going to ask Ananda this question because Jesus has answered this in the book. Oh, we're with you again, dear ones. So that is the answer, and it is the right answer. You are projecting everything in this world. Now, this is very, very difficult for you to comprehend because you feel that you are one person and somebody else is another person. And that is what separation is, of course. That is the illusion of separation. But as you go up in frequency, that separation diminishes and diminishes and diminishes. As you go down in frequency, that separation increases, increases, increases. What happens in those lower realms? You feel okay to kill somebody because they are not anything to do with you and there is no connection between them and you. And so murder is acceptable. You go down in frequency further and you find it okay to kill yourself because you are meaningless, you are worthless, you are alone. There's no one here, no one loves you. That is a mind completely out of accord with truth. And it is a desperate and lonely place because even the depressed mind is as powerful in that sense as the awakening mind. It is believing everything that it's thinking, its low frequency thoughts, its hateful ideas. Now, most, or we'll say ordinary beings are in this place of, I feel better if I think it's your problem and not mine. And that really is kind of the median way of looking at the world that most of you have. You go to a family gathering and Uncle Bob is at the end of the table drinking himself silly and you go, Uncle Bob's got a problem, I'm fine. And that is what the projection is designed to do. It's designed to keep you separate from those aspects of your own consciousness. And it is designed to make you look innocent, and the guilt and shame and fear is all theirs. That's the setup. So we really want you to understand that that's what you're feeling. You don't want to look at your anger. You don't want to look at your negativity. You don't want to look at those things in you. Why? Because the ego has said these things are dangerous, distressing, unsafe, cause mortal fear. There's a lot of different degrees of fear that the ego is trying to keep you safe from. Remember, this plummeting into separation, that is the the fall, as we call it, scared the ego mind so much, created the ego mind, in fact, that it brought this world into being. And that is what we are dissolving. But because it has all of your faith supporting it, it is a powerful, powerful creation. What happens when you follow a path such as this? Forgiveness, loving kindness, listening to your guidance. You go up out of that I feel better when I separate from somebody into, oh, actually, I think I'm going to investigate anger because it's showing up around me a lot. Where am I not expressing anger? And as these increasing energies escalate, remember they're escalating all the time. This is the kind of thing that's very, very important, because if you have not looked at something within your consciousness that your environment has been prompting you to look at, it's going to get worse rather than better. And so you're going to probably feel like you're failing as a spiritual student, because your mind now is going to be drawn to those things that you have not yet been willing to look at. So whether it's being a victim of the world, or whether it's hiding your feelings with food, or whether it's attacking people, whatever it is that you have not yet looked at, it's going to come up now. So we really want to prepare you for these coming months and years, because these increasing frequencies are not personal in the sense that they're going to back off a little bit so that you can have some time. No, they're going to just keep coming and coming and coming and coming. So we want you to understand that getting relief from blame, which is basically what that question said, if I say it's theirs, then I feel better. That is a perfect demonstration of what the ego wants you to do. It wants you to say, it's not me, it's them. Now, when you're in a particular situation where, let's say you get in a car accident, a bump, not a serious one, we'll say a fender bender at the intersection, and someone leaps out of the car and they scream at you, and you have a big reaction and you're frightened, and maybe you yell back, and then finally you exchange your insurance papers and you go on about your day. Perhaps you have to take your car to get fixed. You have to deal with that situation as it's happening in real time with the beliefs you hold. Now, if you've been doing A Course in Miracles for quite some time, you may get into an accident and actually not react that much. You may get out of your car and go, oh my goodness, this is awful that this has happened. And you may be quite calm. If, however, you've been staying in that place of everything is someone else's fault, their negativity is their fault, you may get upset at the situation because you will feel victimized. If you've been blaming other people or saying it's their negativity, when you meet it, you will accuse them of having negativity when you don't, and you may very well actually become more volatile because of that. So deal with whatever situation you're in as needed in that moment. I actually do not like being screamed at by someone, so I'm going to remove myself from the situation. That's a sound coping mechanism in the moment. But once that situation is over and you've got time to reflect on it, ask yourself, does this keep happening to me? Am I getting negative energy directed my way frequently, or is this a completely random thing? Whatever your answer is, we say continue on that internal exploration and ask yourself, when that person screamed at me, what came up for me? It reminded me of my mother. It reminded me of my older brother who used to scream at me when I was a little girl. Does it trigger a memory? Does it remind you of something? Is it holding the same frequency as something else that you have experienced or are experiencing. Remember, the frequency of things that are happening in your life are all going to be similar. So that is your clue. Now, most of you hide from yourselves the frequency that you're truly holding. You're saying, yes, but Donald Trump is so awful. I have to get mad at him. And oh, my kids are so messy. I have to get mad at them. And that's the projection. They are guilty. I am innocent. I have no responsibility for my reaction. Who wouldn't get angry at these situations? That's an unconscious victim kind of mentality. That is going to be the pervasive frequency of your life. There's going to be things happening to you. Oh, my boss is being mean to me. My bank won't give me a loan. These are the victim perpetrator kind of energies. This is where most of you start out in these training programs. You start out in that place of the world is happening to me. But as you begin to learn, you begin to see, I'm actually holding a lot of negative frequencies in my mind about people and places and things and myself. Of course, my life is going to be negative. And so we want to really ask you, do you want to perpetuate the idea of separation? Or do you want to put a mirror up there and go, where am I negative? And we will say all of you are at some point or other. Let that be the lesson today if you're keep encountering negative people. Now, we understand that these teachings are repetitive and we must bring them to you time and time again because the form of the question may change, but the answer is always the same. You must look at what the difficulty brings up in you and be honest with yourself and say, there it is again. It's the same thing. It's my judgment. I am angry at this person. I'm angry at this place. I'm angry at this thing. It has to reflect back to me in the form of things of a like frequency. It's not going to be directly related always. Sometimes it is, but generally not. If you have a lot of low frequency beliefs and ideas in the mind, it can generate a variety of forms that are of a like frequency. So just ask yourself honestly, where in me do I hold that frequency? About what subject do I hold that frequency? There's that negative person. Here I am being super negative about my financial fear. Okay, that's a match. Let me then not be pushing that negativity away, perpetuating separation, but let me take that question, where am I negative, and look at that thing in me and let me go, okay, I see that I'm negative around money. I'm going to make that project. I'm going to make my negativity around money my project for a couple of weeks, and I'm going to observe where I say negative things, where I believe negative things, where I ruminate on negative things, and then I'm going to set myself the task of saying, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to catch myself, and I'm going to turn that story around, and I'm going to discipline my mind. Thank you, negative person, for bringing this up in me. Thank you for focusing me interiorly, because if I focus on you being negative and saying it's your shit, then I'm not going to grow and learn, and the projection is going to continue. This is the purpose of your multiplicity of lives, is to get to the point where you know that you're the creator, you're the master of your feelings, the material world, your ability to love. And when you master those things, you will move on to another level of consciousness, which is what enlightenment is. Those beings are masters of love and the physical material world. And then they go into a higher frequency of teaching and learning themselves from other higher frequency beings, on and on and on. So we hope that answers your question. And we do ask you to, if you care about these teachings and if you truly want to understand these teachings, to read the books that this being has channeled. They are not there for recreational purposes in that sense. They are there because those subjects are important enough to write a book about. And if you find yourself questioning, as this being did, and questioning and asking a question that has already been answered in the book, then the book needs to be reread. And that is a good thing. There's a lot of information in those books that holds a frequency as well. We will tell you that when you are reading those books, there are many beings, non-physical beings with you, supporting you, helping you understand those books. Go back to them. If you haven't got a deep, thorough understanding of that information, go back and reread them and delve more deeply into the information that is given there for you to help you in your ascension process. Oh, okay. How's that time? 20 minutes. Okay. Okay, I like this question. If everything we see around us is not real, but only reflects us and or is created out of our thoughts, what then is the purpose of asking questions about what we see, feel, experience in the outside world? Because whether it be a question about the earth we live on or a question about our extraterrestrial friends or whatever question, truth will never be the answer. Will asking questions like these really help us understand what truth is and what we really are? Or do questions like these keep us in a specific thought system? And should we ask questions anyway, or is this just a game to keep our minds busy? It's a very good question, asking questions about questions. Okay, that's from Renee in Holland. And let's see what Ananda has to say about our endless questions. We're with you again, dear ones. This is a very good question because this is separation in action. Your world has become a multiplicity of separated thoughts and ideas and inventions and layer upon layer, history upon history, national boundary upon national boundary, different ethnicity upon different ethnicity, rock and roll versus romantic ballads. You have created a fascinating, distracting world that reflects the multiplicity of your ideas, your thoughts, everything is being shown out there. So it's a very, very confusing world for you. It's a very, very tempting world too. And you will find that this is part indeed of the separation mentality. The world is so distracting that it makes it very easy not to go inside. There are so many questions to be asked. What is Atlantis? Who was in charge of it? What did women wear? What was Egypt? Are there extraterrestrial beings? La, 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 la. And we love it. We love helping you, but we know that there is an endless stream of questions in the ego mind. It is the doubting part of your consciousness. It is the part that wants the questions not to be answerable. It's the part that seeks for an answer but does not accept the answer. It says, but yes, but what about this and what about that? And this is a contradiction. And it goes on and on and on and on. And that is why you suffer so much, because there are 1,000 pathways that you can take. You can become a scuba diver. You can become an artist. You can become a doctor. You can become an astronaut. You can become whatever you want. And if you chase that thing, which you should do if it's calling to you, but you will eventually come to the end of that road and you'll say, this is not it. This does not answer my question, because it's taking place in the physical material world. Now, this seems to be a contradiction. Here we say one day we say, follow your guidance and become whatever it is that interests you. And on the other hand, we say, well, you'll get to a point when that doesn't interest you anymore, and that's not the answer. And that is exactly what this world is for. It's designed to keep you distracted. It's designed to keep the separation alive. The default setting is separation. How do you know? Well, you all live in individuated bodies. You all believe you're individuals. You are all walking, talking, breathing, acting in separation. That's the default setting. Unless you do something different, that's what will happen. There will be an endless series of questions that cannot be answered to the ego's satisfaction. If you want to keep playing in that arena, then that is okay. We are here to answer your questions. We are here to lift you up out of that constant querying and doubting part of your consciousness. And what you will notice is that as you go up in frequency, out of fear, out of doubt, out of separation, out of questioning, you go into a place of peace. And what is peace but knowing? It is a non-querying place in that sense. It is a knowing place. It's a place that says, everything is okay. I trust in the process. I know that this ego world is playing its game out there, but I'm not going to get involved in the drama. I used to be there. It accomplished nothing. One battle after another, one problem after another. I would rather be in peace, but to get there, you have to follow the prescription, which is doing the lessons of A Course in Miracles, practicing the principles of A Course in Miracles, doing your forgiveness practice, not just reading the lessons and living your life as if they don't mean anything, but using those lessons as a response to the problems in your life. This relative drives me up the wall. That means I'm in separation. Why are they driving me up the wall? What is it about them that triggers me? Triggers me. It's in you. The trigger's in you. The button's in you that they pushed. That is what this is all for. It is to say, there it is. I feel insecure. That person pushes my insecurity button. It's got nothing to do with them. Let me not be distracted by the world. Let me experience the healing of focusing on my insecurities and letting them go, becoming confident, becoming sure. That's my assignment. And with the lessons of A Course in Miracles and the teachings that are coming through this being, eventually, none of you will ask any more questions, and we will not need to do this anymore. We will not need to lead you by the hand. You will have gone through the process. You will have come to see that peace and knowledge and connection to the divine and the guidance that comes from that is much better than being distracted by the 1,000 questions and the 1,000 pathways that the world offers you. Remember, this is a place of separation. That's the default setting. If you keep asking questions and do not do the work, the interior work that takes you to a new place, you will just get exhausted by asking questions. And there are people who spend lifetime after lifetime just asking questions and never changing their minds into a place where they can find the answers themselves through the practice of forgiveness and coming to a state of peace. So we love your questions because that's where you are and that's where you need help now. But if you find yourself being frustrated by endless questions, stop asking them. And don't feed that part of the ego mind, because it will never be satisfied truly until you take yourself by doing the lessons of A Course in Miracles. Again, many of you suffer because you are either not doing the lessons or you're doing one a week instead of one a day as prescribed. You're dragging it out, you're resisting it, or you're putting it down and coming back to it months later. Please, please, do them as prescribed, knowing that it was designed that way for a purpose. We love you. We are Ananda. We are your guides and teachers, and we love answering your questions because we know we are taking you to a place where eventually they will not need to be answered. It is our spiritual assignment to come into this frequency through this being, and we thank her for her service work. It is very, very important service work. And as we have said before, but we'll remind you again, a lot of people were offered this job and turned it down, but she said yes. One of the reasons she said yes is because of her karmic history and the blueprint that she holds for this lifetime. Do not compare yourself or seek to emulate what she does, but listen to your blueprint and know that you have your own beautiful assignment for this life. And it will become clearer and clearer and clearer as you practice the principles and the means that you have been given to achieve peace of mind. We will speak to you again shortly. Okie dokie. Oh, look at that, 11:30. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. I will get this video up on the website sometime in the next 48 hours. I would just like to remind you of the documentary that I was in. It's called, you can go to tuninginfilms.com and you can see the trailer for that documentary there. Somebody was complaining about the price of that film, and I did want to remind, I didn't set the price, the director did. And I just want to remind everyone that we get so much free information on YouTube that perhaps sometimes we forget that directors who have to buy cameras and hire editors and studios and travel and all of those things, it does cost to produce this work. And I just encourage everyone to look at the trailer. I've watched the movie a couple of times and really enjoyed it. And I hope that you will consider supporting this producer, because I've enjoyed his movies, and I think it deserves our support. So thank you for that. And I will see you in 1 week. I am going to send out links probably tomorrow, and we'll do this again next Sunday. So I will see you then, and much love to all of you. Thank you for joining me.